Want to know the best thing about long-running series? They make a pretty good dent as a self-defense weapon. So yes, I'm here to talk about those series, the ones with a lot of books, a lot of pages, a lot of words. And no matter how much they intimidate me, I know I am still going to read them, and I'm certain this is something that you can all relate with. Matter of fact, pause this video right now, go down in the comments and let me know one book series that is so... It might not even have so many books, but it's something that absolutely intimidates you, but you intend to read it anyway, sometime soon, sometime in the future. Just drop it down in the comments down below because I want to see the answers before you go on to the video. So we'll see at the end of it if any of the series on my list are on yours as well. Now, please know that for a series to make this list, it has to be a series that, one, I have never read any of the books at all, because this is series that intimidates me but I want to read anyway. So of course, A Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin will not make this list because I've already read that series. If it's a series that I've read maybe the first 2, 3, 4 books in the series, it will not make this list as well because I've already started said series. So for example, J.R. Ward's Black Dagger Brotherhood will not make this list. If you want a separate video of series that I found absolutely intimidating but I read anyway, not that I want to read, but I've already read them and finished them, drop it down in the comments as well. I will do a follow-up video for that. But let's get started with the first series on the list, and that is The Realm of the Elderling series by Robin Hobb. I know this is kind of a cheat because technically this is a universe, a series, 5 interconnected series that make one epic story. The key word there being one epic story, a story that starts with Fit's journey being apprenticed, because he's the illegitimate child of the crown prince and thus is apprenticed to become an assassin. So we start with Fit's story in Assassin's Apprentice and we run all the way through to the end of his story in Assassin's Fate. And if we look beyond the semantics and consider Realm of the Elderling as one big ginormous series that has within it 5 several interconnected series, you will see why this series is on this list. I mean, it is 16 books spread over 5 individual and interconnected series with a word count that places it slightly above 4 million words. You heard that right, over 4 million words in the series. I mean, I want to read it and I have bought the series, but pray for me. Next up is Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. I mean, it has sprawling worlds, sprawling empires, a sprawling magic system, a sprawling plot. So does it not make sense that its sprawling word count at over 4,081,000 words, please note 4,081,000 words, does it not make sense that that sprawling word count would have me taking several steps back? Wow. And asking the universe if truly I was born and destined to be a reader, or if I was destined to undertake such a task, because 15 books, there are 15 significant books.
God have mercy upon us.
Next up is Discworld, and all I would say is 41. Nope, I'm not referring to the number of times in which I have asked myself why on earth I've decided to torture future Noria by making this promise to myself that I want to eventually be all caught up and finished with the series. No, that is 42. I've asked myself that question 42 times. No, 41 is the number of books in this series. Yes, you heard that right. 41. Sir Terry Pratchett really went to town on this series. I mean, 41 books. And sure, I found the cannibalistic luggage very, very funny and very, very fascinating. I also absolutely adored the brief glimpse we got of Death, who just wants to kill our protagonist, who refuses to die, and Death is like, dude, when are you gonna die? Let me kill you. And the guy's like, nope, I don't want to die yet. And Death is like, let me do my job. Surrender yourself, die. I mean, it was funny and I loved it. I also found it hilarious, the sheer ludicrousness of the world that Terry Pratchett created, because the earth in this universe is balanced on the back of 2 turtles. I mean, What is not to love with that? But 41 books. That is over 5.6 million words in the series. Anybody will be, if you're not intimidated by the thought, like if you're not already all done and finished and caught up and read all the books in the Discworld series and you're just starting out, because I've only read one book. Remember I said that after I read 2, 3, 4 books for it not to make this list, I've only read the first book, The Color of Magic, and all I'm thinking is, I have 40 more books to go. 40 more books to go.
Someone please call 911.
Next up is the Vorkosigan Saga, masterfully created by Lois McMaster Bujold. And is anybody surprised that this series made the list? I mean, it has won 5 Hugo Awards, one of which was for Best Series. So I definitely want to see this series that is so well acclaimed. I just am very, very terrified of it, even though it has practically everything I love. It features an intricate political system in space, and as such blesses us with all the political maneuvering that my body craves and my soul desires. I mean, it is space opera epicness that follows multiple characters, chief of which is Miles Vorkosigan, who is the son of the prime minister, born with brittle bones, is very, very short, and is a hunchback. And we follow his entire life story. In fact, we start the story from before he was born, from the meeting of his parents. So this is generational bliss. The Vorkosigan Saga has my name on it, but it also has 15. It has 15 books in the saga. And also multiple short stories thrown in for laughs and giggles. Like, why does this always happen to me? Why? And then there's the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. Now, the first time I encountered Jim Butcher's writing, it was in the Codex Alera series, which I absolutely could not stand. I totally and completely hated. One day I would do a video to, I don't know, try and remember the reasons why I had such a visceral hatred for that story, but I did. If you love the books and you're like, oh my God, Nora, how could you hate Codex Alera? It's amazing. I don't care. Take it up with my ex. Both of you can commiserate about it together. But then I heard that Jim Butcher had another series that is more urban fantasy paranormal with, fantasy elements, supernatural creatures, and at the heart of it is a detective story. Yo, growing up, your girl was a fan of detective stories. I was nosy and I was a snoop.
Don't you wish that you could be a fly on the wall, a creepy little snake?
So that was my jam. I read every single one of them. I was reading Agatha Christie, I was reading Nancy Drew, I was reading Hardy Boys, I was reading James Hadley Chase, I was reading Famous Five, I was reading Secret Seven, I was reading Adventurous Four. So I just like people discovering mysteries. Sometimes it hits them, sometimes it comes to come and visit them, sometimes they're on a holiday and then boom, they are in the midst of a mystery, of a murder mystery. So not only in books, I was also following those on TV shows. Like I watched them all, like Law and Order SVU, yep. I watched the CSI, all the reiterations of CSI. I watched Mentalist, I of course watched Elementary because of course I read Sherlock Holmes. Of course I watched all the Sherlock Holmes movies, the ones in black and white, the ones in color. I watched everything, including the shows, both Sherlock and Elementary. So your girl lives for detective stories and figuring it out and puzzling things out. And when it is that I was told that, the detective in this story is a wizard, I was like, Dresden Files, come to mama. Until someone hit me with the double whammy that Dresden Files also has 17 books. There are 17 books in the series and a word count of over 2.2 million. 2.2 million words. Why does this keep happening to me? Who did I offend? Tani Moshe. Who did I offend? Why?
Why?
And because I'm on a paranormal fantasy kick, I decided to look at the next entry on the list, although this one is the Paranormal Romance, one of the longest running paranormal romance in the game. I'm of course referring to the Anita Blake Saga by Laurel K. Hamilton. If you were all like, hold up, Noria, I thought you were going to talk about, Kristen Feehan's Carpathian series, the dark everything. One, I read those books up to book 17. Secondly, I read those books up to book 17. Is that not punishment enough? I should do another video about how much I hate that series. Let's just move on to Laurel K. Hamilton giving us Anita Blake. I mean, this is a parallel universe paranormal romance that features Anita Blake, whose daytime job is to reanimate the dead and kill vampires. And she's juggling those two jobs, she's also kind of like in love with the master vampire, which you can already see is going to be a pain because poor Anita. Poor Anita. Like, I was all ready to dive into the series, and I still will dive into the series, but when I first heard about it, I was all ready to dive in, and then so I was like, oh yeah, cool, you have 27 books to really get into the character and get into the world, and I'm like,
wait a damn minute.
I'm sorry, so what? 27 books? I'll read it. But why? Next up is the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. Now, I still have not read a Brandon Sanderson book yet. I will. I promise. When I was debating, what Brandon Sanderson series to start with, and I'm like, oh, should I start with Mistborn and all of that? And I'm like, Mistborn has like 6 books. That's a lot of books. And then I was like, I could start with the Stormlight Archive. That's only 3 books. It's still working on the 4th book. It should be coming out sometime this year. But I was like, it's still working on the 4th book. There are only 3 books. I can be in it and out of it pronto, fast, super fast. Like, bullet, move, yes, that's all the sounds to explain just how fast I'm envisioned finishing and being all caught up with, Stormlight Archive. And then my friend was like, yeah, it's 3 books. I'm like, of course, we had that conversation. It's 3 books. I'm like, it's cool because I was like, I didn't want to start with a standalone Brandon Sanderson. I wanted to start with a series to really get the feel of his writing and his worlds building and the characters and everything. I'm like, 3, we can do this. And then my friend goes, yeah, about 1.2 million words in total, but just 3 books. And I just...
Am I a joke to you?
1.2 million words. 3 books for 1.2 million words. 3! For 1.2 million words.
I have nothing to say.
Nothing to say about the game at all?
Nothing.
And then there's the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. No, I have never read a Stephen King book. Not yet anyway. Yes, I intend to have the very first Stephen King book I read be the Dark Tower series. Yes, I'm aware that it is a sprawling entry into the universe, that Stephen King has created. No, I do not mind that it is a fantasy western hybrid. Yes, I definitely want to meet the gunslinger. And yes, that movie was trash. But Idris Elba was fine though. And yes, I am still in denial because, how does a man go from writing a lot of singular standalone stories to writing a series with not 1, not 2, not 5, but 7 books? 7 books? 1.7 million words? Why? And there's Malazan Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. You know those stories that you have absolutely zero idea about, but your friends are like, yo, read this, Noria. And they're like, you will love this, Noria. And they're like, this series is your jam, Noria. And they're like, sure, it's a bit hard to get into, but it's eventually worth it at the end, Noria. And they tell you all of this, but they conveniently forget to tell you that this series has 10 main books, 6 companion novels, a prequel trilogy, another prequel trilogy, a sequel in the works, and then about 6 novellas to give you a deeper understanding of the world and the characters. And I know some people might be like, oh, you can just ignore all the companion novels and all the sequels and the prequels and the pre-prequels and the novellas. Just stick to the main story. But see, that is not how my brain works. My brain would legit not be able to stop thinking about the fact that I am missing out on having a full enriching experience with everything, even if it is that the writing is not as stellar as Stephen Erickson, because of course the other books were not written by Stephen Erickson, but even if it's not as stellar as Stephen Erickson's writing, I still need to be able to read them all in order to get a glimpse of the world. I mean, your girl read all the Shadowhunter books, including all the novellas, including the character art book, including the Shadowhunters Codex. So I have to. That's how my brain works. So I would eventually read it all, because I do intend to read Malazan Book of the Fallen. But just to all my friends who put this series in my mind and implanted it in my thoughts,
I'm not doing this anymore, no. So let me tell you this. If you're my homie and you do that, I'm going to give you a warning. But if you still do it, I'm going to take the pinky.
and finally, there's the last series on the list, the Gwin Saga by Kaoru Kurimoto, which is a heroic fantasy novel that follows the titular character, Gwin, who is a mysterious warrior who has zero knowledge of who he is, except for the fact that he thinks his name is Gwin, who instinctively knows how to fight well, and who has the word Awura in his head and is trying to figure out what it means. And the story starts when he rescues these twins from a unit of soldiers and he single-handedly defeats all the soldiers. I mean, it's definitely a series I've been wanting to get into, and it's a series that is written entirely in Japanese, and it's also the longest running series on this list at 130 volumes. Yes, 130 volumes and 22 side novels. Now, as someone who spent 12 years of my life consistently reading Naruto all the way to the end because I needed to know how Masashi was going to end that story,
Big mistake. Big. Huge.
and who followed Bleach consistently for 9 years all the way to the end and had to deal with that catastrophe of an ending that Taikubo gave us, I am bracing myself for Gwyn. I'm also bracing myself for the fact that so far only the first 5 books have been translated into English, which means I have 2 options. I can either wait for however long it will take for them to translate all the books into English, which might not happen in my lifetime, or I might have to learn how to read Japanese. Konnichiwa. But yeah, that is the end of this video. Those are 10 long-running book series that absolutely terrify and intimidate me, but I intend to read anyway. If you've read any of these series that I mentioned and you want to give me a word of encouragement with regards, go ahead, read it, Noria. Trust me, it'll be worth it. You would enjoy it, blah, blah, blah. It's not as intimidating. It just looks scary when you think about it, but when you get into it, blah, blah, blah. Just give me all that words of encouragement in the comments down below as well. If you like this video, please do not forget to give it a big thumbs up. Check out my other videos. Subscribe if you want to. But if you do decide to subscribe, please click on that notification bell. So you click on subscribe, click on the notification bell so that you can have all notifications turned on so you do not miss any of my videos. But I do make new videos every Wednesdays and Sundays at 2 p.m. EST. Yes, that is 2 p.m. EST. And I'll see you soon. Until then, stay passionate, love books, love yourself. Bye.